Good morning, everybody. I'm Rita Garcia. This morning on Asian Connection, a huge and unprecedented study of Houston's Asian population. There's never been anything like it in our city or in the entire country. Here to tell us more about it, please welcome the co-director of Rice University's Kinder Institute for Urban Research, Dr. Stephen Klineberg. Good morning to you.
Hi, Rita. Great to be here. Thank you.
Well, we can't wait to hear all about this study. Why don't you break it down for us and tell us what communities you studied?
Well, you bet. Well, so we do a study of Houston, which we've done now for 31 years, tracking the remarkable transformation of the city. And in 3 of the years, in 1995, 2002, and 2011, we were able to raise the monies to do major surveys of the Asian communities, where 28% of the interviews were done in Vietnamese, Cantonese, Mandarin, and Korean. How do you reach a random sample of Asians? We did it by random telephone numbers, starting with 60,000 phone numbers, finding 28,000 households that would answer the telephone to find 520 households that contain an Asian and a random Asian in each household. So a real effort to measure what are we as a community of this extraordinary group of Asians over these 3 different years. And just one example of what we've been watching is in 1995, 92% of all the Asian adults in Houston were first-generation immigrants, because they had all come after the law was changed in 1965 and 1970. Very few Asians in Houston before then. So all immigrants, only 9% were U.S. born. In 2002, it was 15% who were U.S. born. And in 2011, 31% of all the Asian adults are now the children of the immigrants.
Wow.
That second generation coming of age at this extraordinary moment.
Absolutely fascinating. And I want backpedal here before we get back to this study is, were there any challenges? Because you mentioned phone numbers and having to call people and knock on doors. So tell us about these.
Well, tremendous. We start, how do you reach a random sample of Asians? Well, one thought is, whenever any 3 Asians get together in Houston, they form an association. Get a list of all the members of associations, take out the redundancies, random sample. Not everybody joins associations. We're interested in new people arriving. So the only way we could do it seemed to us, was by systematically starting with over 60,000 random phone numbers. Wow. And 30% cell phone, 60% landline. So it's a tremendous undertaking, which is why we could only do it in these 3 different years. And just tremendous support, both from the Asian community and from Houston Endowment and United Way, making it possible to really get a measure of this remarkable community.
Anything that surprised you in the findings? Or just shocked you?
I think the second generation is just fascinating. They are very different from the first generation, but also quite similar in different ways. So we'll have a chance to talk about that. But there's always surprises. I mean, that's what makes this research so interesting. And it's also, Houston is undergoing such extraordinary change, right? We were a biracial southern city dominated by white men throughout all of our history. During the oil boom years of the 60s and 70s, Anglos were pouring into Houston. This is where the jobs were. Up in the Northeast, everyone was having their Carter Malez or stagflating 70s. Houston was booming. The Anglo population grew by 28% between 1970 and 1980. Then came the oil bust, and the Anglo population stopped growing and then declined. And all the growth of Houston in the last 30 years has been immigration and influxes from Asia, Latin America, and the Caribbean. And this city has suddenly become the single most ethnically diverse city in all of America.
And in saying that, I want to make sure we just put some information on the screen for folks. That's where they can find more information about yourself, a phone number, and then also the study. We just got that information up. And this is so fascinating. I would hate to cut you off, but we are out of time. Okay. However, thankfully, Dr. Klineberg will be back with us again tomorrow morning to share more insights from his study. So please join us tomorrow on Fox 26 Morning News.